Bro. Bro, what are you doing? Jin Sakai. Seriously, take your life seriously. You're 30 years old. I'm samurai. Okay, samurai, stop playing these freaking games all the time, man. Look how you get. But it's an amazing game. I'm heading back out. Guys, Love Gaming Neutro here, and this is my first game review. As you all know, I do a lot of gameplay walkthroughs, but I want to include these reviews. We're going to do a full review. It will be a non-spoiler review because I feel like you don't need to spoil the game in order to tell you how kind of good this game is. And I had a lot of fun with this game. I've racked up over 100 hours and I'm nearly at the end of my second playthrough, only because I want to. Let's get into this review. Let's go. It's made by Sucker Punch Productions. They made a lot of the Infamous games, or they haven't really made that many games. So Infamous 1 and 2, I never actually played those, but I heard they were pretty good. It's an open world third person game. There's a lot of open world games, and instantly the one that you'll probably compare it to is Assassin's Creed. It's set in the setting of a samurai movie, so it kind of feels like a samurai movie. Set in the 13th century in Japan. I've got my notes here. At the beginning of the game, you go into a massive war with the Mongols, the Mongolians, and they kind of take over your island. You are the only remaining samurai, and basically you are saved by a thief, and basically you survive, and your uncle is the head of the Tsushima samurai, and he's been kidnapped. So you're the only one left. So as I said, you're saved by a thief called Yuna. What a great character she is. And basically, the samurai in this game, they live by honor. So you don't kill anyone behind them. You don't do anything that you fight them straight on in the eyes. And unfortunately, the Mongols are they're kind of clever because they know the samurai work like that. And because of that, he has to learn in order to save his island, save his uncle, save his people. He's going to have to learn how to become a thief, stab people in the back, learn different tactics in order to beat them and take over his island again. And that's what's amazing. That's what's wicked about the game, because instantly you kind of know what sort of character he is in terms of he lives by honor. He looks up to his uncle. It's his only family. And then when he starts to learn that, he has to change the way he fights. It's quite heavy on him because he doesn't want to do it and he feels very, very freaking guilty. And unlike any other open world game, I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla for literally, I think it was like 100 hours. And you know what? It was the first game I played coming onto the PS5, and I haven't played Assassin's Creed games in years. That game felt bloated, it felt dragged on, it felt so tiring. I just wanted to complete the game to complete the game. This is a different sort of open world because it's an open world game, you can go where you want. It's open world, but they do not put any side missions, any useless missions or anything in there just to fill up the blank, shall I say. That's why I love it, it's incredible. Every little side mission you have is for a reason. And the characters that are introduced, they complement the main story. So it's not just like, who's this guy, and then he goes off. It's not like Assassin's Creed where you deliver this letter down the road. Like, it is like unbelievable that they actually freaking do that. But you know what? That's the way the Assassin's Creed games have gone. So it does it better than the rest. That's all I'll say. It does it better than the rest. It's a game that I wasn't really thinking, you know what? I'm not sure if this is for me. I heard such good reviews and I was like, I need to play this. It feels like the old Assassin's Creed in terms of the combat, which I'm going to come to anyway. So let's go through the story. As I said, the leader of the Mongols, Khotan Khan, his name is, he is a ruthless, brutal, he does not care. He will do anything he wants to in order to take over the island. The main aim is for you is to save your island, save your people, save your uncle from them. So what you have to do, after you get saved, you have to build allies from 4 people. You have the warrior monk, Norio. You have the Bowmaster, Sensei Ishikawa. Lady Masako. And you have Kenji, Kenji's like a mischievous merchant. They're all really, really good. They each have their own stories, which is very moving, very emotional, and you are fully invested in every one of these characters. So you have quite a lot of side quests to do with these side characters, shall I say, but it doesn't feel bloated. It doesn't feel like, oh, I have to do this. But I'm really intrigued in the story and how they build up these characters and what's happened. I feel like there's no wasted content in this game. If you've played any of the Assassin's Creed games, probably the Valhalla, Odyssey I like, but again, so bloated, full of stuff. If you play this game, you will know what I mean. It's carefully placed in. The side quests, everything like that is kind of placed in very, very carefully. And as I said, you build a very strong connection to these characters. You learn about their vulnerabilities. You learn about their story, what has happened to them, how it's affected them, the Mongols. So it's each affected them each in different ways, and it kind of changes them over the course of the game as well. There's quite a U-turn in all of these characters. I'll probably say all of these characters. That's why it's so interesting. You obviously have the main mission, but you also have the side missions as well to build up your, your weapons, your armor. You get updated cosmetics, which I'll come to as well. There's also an expansion called Iki Island. I'm going to go through that as well because it's part of the game if you've got the new game. So the expansion is a refreshing new content. When you play the full game, you can jump into the Iki Island throughout the game, but you dive into Jin Sakai's past, about what happened to his father, what was he like on this island, because people on the island hate the samurai because there was a war, but his father basically gets killed in the past. But it dives deep right into that. This could be another game. It was that good. See, I would have been happy with as well the same content in this expansion. All I wanted was more content. That's all I wanted. But my point is, the new content on there, you make the most out of the PS5 controller. Like, you start playing the flute, you use the touchpad in order to play the flute, and it's some refreshing new things that I was like, wow, this wasn't even in the game. So the fact that they put it in there and they made it new, it felt very, very refreshing, and it was an amazing story. Again, you've got new interesting characters, Tenzo, you've got Fune, I think I'm saying that right. But just a quick brief of that, I felt it was too short. I felt it could have been expanded a lot more, but again, it's an expansion story, so I can't really complain that it was too short, because I wanted more of it. It just could have been a longer story. The story was that good. So if you're like me and you are a story-driven person, I love story-driven games. The story in itself is incredible. Incredible story. So let's move over to the gameplay / controls. So I want to break this up. So we've talked about the story. We're going to move over to the gameplay and the controls. It feels like the old Assassin's Creed, and I'm talking like the first one, where there's no level system on enemies, so there's no level ups and keep killing them until their bar goes down. It's nothing like that. That's why this is such a good game. It feels like the old Assassin's Creed when you're Altair and you block and you parry. You have 4 stances that you learn. You have stone, water, wind, and moon. And this makes the game just that little bit more exciting, shall I say, because each enemy you have, so you have a normal enemy, you would use your wind stance for a normal enemy, but then you get ones with spears, and then you would use your water stance. So you basically use the controls to switch stances, and he switches positions with the sword. You get ones with shields, and then you switch to the moon stance, I believe. I might have got those wrong, probably. And then you get the big enemies, and then you switch to another stance. So you might have quite a few different enemies, and you're switching between different stances because they're going to be most effective against them. And it just feels really, really it feels like you are a samurai. It's not just like parry, same thing. He changes his way of fighting as he goes along. So it's so exciting, and it just keeps it refreshing. Just by adding this in, it doesn't feel repetitive. You also get a short bow and you get the long bow, and it makes use of the controllers where, the PS5 controller, where your long bow is, you can hit enemies from a longer distance, and the way it gets stuck on there, and you can feel it's a heavy bow. Like he's really trying so hard to pull back that bow to get an enemy in the far distance. Incredible. And also what you do, you get a lot of these side weapons, shall I say. So I can't remember what buttons you press, but on one side you have these little throwing knives. You will have you can make your sword on fire. You can use your poison and literally poison people. You can use a smoke bomb. You can use a firecracker, and this is ways of distracting enemies. The only problem with this is that you would love to utilize these a lot more, but the only problem is, because sometimes there's so many enemies around you, you don't have time to kind of switch from, let me use this weapon and let me use this weapon. So it kind of doesn't get used as much. It's a bit frustrating because you want to change the way you kill these enemies. Don't get me wrong, if you can do a smoke bomb and then you can assassinate them. It's very hard. I've played this over 100 hours, so I was still not used to it trying to utilize, because enemies are just coming at you. So that's the only thing that doesn't get utilized, I would say, as much. Apart from that, it's quite minor. But again, I have to talk about the positives and the negatives. But there's very little negatives in this game. Big enemies or important enemies, you get duels. So you can't use any of your weapons that I just said. You can't change your stance. It's a very cinematic. So it'll be you and him, and it's like facing him, facing you, and it's just you and your sword. You have to dodge. You have to use some of the special abilities you've got. You've got some special abilities as well. That's all you can use. But it's very, very satisfying the way it's like, wow, I'm coming up against a big timer now. And the way it's just, again, it's cinematic. And also doing the game is actually changed the game to black and white. I did it for a bit, but then I went back to colour, and it proper feels like a samurai movie. It's incredible. I haven't played it because I want to see the colours and everything like that. But it is freaking amazing the way, so much diversity. So a little bit of the side quests as well. On the map, you get these foxes' dens. So you have to follow these cute little foxes, and they take you to a shrine, and you have to respect the shrine. And you get something called Revolve. Yeah, you get something called Revolve, which is basically adrenaline. So you can use special abilities, and each one you do, you kind of increase your Revolve or adrenaline. So you can kind of use more special abilities. You can basically heal as well, because that takes up your Revolve, which you get, but you can build it up. So you got these little foxes dens. It's a little side mission, like not side missions, but stuff on the map that you have to complete. But it's wicked, because you follow the fox, they take you there, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I've got to do that. This is just me. I really, really like it, because nothing feels kind of bloated in this game. They utilize the map well, so when you're riding your horse, you don't get bored. Like, I know, I'll keep comparing this to Assassin's Creed, but I have to. Everyone knows, if you've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla, when you're riding your horse and you're just going through trees, and you're just going, and you're just going, and you're just going. This, you look at the environment, you're like, wow, they really utilize the map. So I feel like I'm going through the map. As you go through these flowers, Jin Sakai will basically lean on his horse and feel the flowers. Small little detail like that he just wants to brush his hand on the flowers. You go to these hot springs, and it increases your health, and you sit in there, but you also reflect. It will say reflect on, and you're kind of meditating in this spring. It'll be like reflect on your uncle, and he would say a few words, and you can kind of have a choice of which one you reflect on. So again, something so small, but it shows that he's human, and what is he thinking throughout this like traumatic time. As I said before, the haptic feedback on the controls is quite incredible. It feels great, especially with the bow and arrow, the long bow especially. It just feels so good. And also when you're riding and you go over a bridge and the controller gets heavy. I never played this on the PS4, I'll just say. And I'm glad I didn't, because I wanted to wait until I had a PS5, because I just wanted to really have the first feel of this game onto the new console. So like the map feels immersive. Like I feel like I'm in the map, I'm in this world, and I just want to explore. You get distracted by Mongols, and you have to either duel them. You can go up quietly, or you can go straight ahead and be like a samurai. I feel like if you do, you can go up to them and shout to them, and then you start off in like a little mini duel, and as they go, you have to press triangle, and then you can kill them. Again, it's quite boring. I'd rather do things quietly and use a few like the poison, and it's quite cool to do it more like a thief. But let's move on to the graphics as well. I've kind of touched on that as well, but the graphics on the PS5 are breathtaking. The scenery, the distance, the graphics are incredible. The scenery, the outfits, the facial expressions are near perfect, I would say. Like you feel the character when they're talking, when they're expressing themselves. It's an interactive movie, this game. And how did this not win Game of the Year with The Last of Us Part 2, and I played that piece of shit game. Now, I hated that game only for the story. Again, the controls, the gameplay was amazing, but this game should have won Game of the Year. You get the choice with all your different cosmetics. You have your mask. You can choose whether to take off your mask in the cutscenes, or you can choose to keep them on. It's up to you. Just a little bit more flexibility and freedom. Sometimes when I had my mask on, I kept it on, and then he's like drinking water. So I was like, you know what, let me take it off during cutscenes, because it takes it out of the feel that he's drinking some water throughout, with a mask on. The sounds of the horseback, the fighting, the when he goes over puddles, it's brilliant. I can't complain about this game. I know this is my first review, and I'm giving this such praise, but again, I will be, I am very honest when it comes to games, from my point of view. Because, you know what, how I've done over 100 hours and I just want to keep playing is, I want to unlock all the different unlockables, the outfits. I just want to continue playing the game. Summing up this game, as you know, I've spoken a hell, like, there's mostly positive. The only real negative I would say is utilizing the side weapons during combat. I honestly, that is the only kind of negative I will give this game. That is why I am giving this game a 10 out of 10. Now, every game has their flaws, and I was speaking to my boy Love Gaming Retro, and he was like, you can't give it a 10 out of 10. I'm like, listen, honestly, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Like, from my point of view, all of those things I've explained, this is a near perfect game. And for a story driven game, for me to pack out over 100 hours, that says something about the game. It took me I was doing loads of side missions with Assassin's Creed, and I was just get it done. That is why I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I strongly recommend you getting this game and buying this game. Also, I forgot to mention the multiplayer. Legends mode. You have Legends mode, and you can basically go into these multiplayer arenas with your friends, and you can choose your character. I haven't done too much of it, but it's great for a multiplayer. You've got waves of enemies, but you've also got some missions to actually do as well, and it is really good. I haven't played too much of it, but it's quite easy at first, and there's no difficulty level, but I'm sure it's going to get harder. I hope you enjoyed my first review of this game, Ghost of Tsushima, and all I'll say is there will be many more reviews coming. So for gameplay walkthroughs, reviews, make sure to subscribe and like. If you can hit the like button, great. If you didn't agree with me, you can hit the dislike button, no problem. Drop a comment below what you think about the game, and I will see you in the next video.